Hey, it's me, WW Hall of Famer from the LOD, Road Warrior Animal. And you.
Yeah, I gotta do this when? Now? I'm watching a match! What is now? Now is it? Oh, now. Yeah, thanks. Hey, this is the Pharaoh, from Monte and the Pharaoh. I just want to say thank you to our subscribers as we now have hit the 10,000 plateau. Thank you to all our subscribers out there. But I'm going to ask our subscribers to take the next step for us and become a full-fledged YouTube Monte and the Pharaoh member. Yes, that's right, folks. You can check it out. We've got 3 different levels. There's free shirts. There's free autographs. There's all sorts of perks for our members. There is nothing more we enjoy than giving you this program. And to do that, we need your support, and we appreciate your support. This is Jimmy Pharaoh, and don't forget to check out Monte and the Pharaoh every Thursday from Indie Music TV and on Cablevision here locally in New York. Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monte and the Pharaoh. Later. Is that good enough for you? Can I finish this? Lesnar's killing him. I'm pissed.
All right, welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monte and the Pharaoh, produced out of Indie Music TV, straight out of Ronkonkoma, Long Island. And at the board, Matty, round 2, buddy. How you doing? You hanging in there?
Great as always.
What did you think about Marissa Jade, dude? I wanted your opinion.
Ooh.
I thought it was a fun interview, yeah.
That's not what we're asking, young man. What did you think when you saw Marissa Jade?
I mean, amazing.
Okay.
Looked amazing.
Okay, there's
And
hope for the youth. Okay.
That was really aggressive. She scared me, kind of, to be honest.
She is scary.
Scared?
She's scary.
Yeah, I wouldn't fuck with
Here's
that.
a question, though. And
Interesting. I found it exciting, but okay, go on.
what does a young guy like you do if, like, say you had the opportunity to date a Marissa Jade?
Wow. Matty Ice.
Could you handle that, or would the pressure just be too much?
No.
It's not worth it, right?
No, too much pressure, yeah.
It's too much pressure.
I wish
Great
you
to
ever
be
sleep,
friends,
Matt.
no,
I mean,
not-
you never sleep, right? You never sleep.
No.
Right. And you'd hate all your friends. You would say, stay away from my girlfriend, right? Right.
What would you do? Like, would you, like, just kill yourself? Or, like,
No.
at what point, like, do you just bail out?
To be honest, when a chick is that honest and that intense and that real, you let her be herself, and if you can't live in your own skin, you're fucked. So you might as well just let her do her thing, and you do your thing, and usually it works out a lot better than not.
Nah, you know what?
What?
You're giving me a Pharaohism right there, man.
I am?
The reality of it is
Pharaohism?
you just marry something ugly.
Is
right?
that what you do?
You marry something ugly, you don't have to worry about anything.
You know, that's not how it starts for all of us. Wait a second. Maybe it's how it ends.
It's how it starts and how it ends, dude. Dude, if you dated a girl of that caliber, it's like when she leaves you, life is over. Just
No, it's not.
jump
Why
off a
is it-
fucking bridge.
Why is it over? Oh, I get it, because you're never gonna
Never
get
gonna
to
come
that,
close.
that level again.
No.
Interesting.
It's
I mean, not even if you put a little magic marker on your hand with a little wig and stuff, and watch your favorite channel, like when
like
no one's
this?
looking.
All right, anyway.
Oh my God, you are too much.
News of the
What
world,
do you got?
Biden ups the ante on the vaccine mandate. So we got
More
Sleepy
news.
Joe trying to force mandates on the country that you have to take a vaccine.
Yeah.
How come I'm hearing some NWO music going on right now?
That's pretty funny. I don't like it, man. I mean that, you know. Oh boy. I guess we're gonna start offending people because we're not like on board with this. I'm not on board with this. And you know what bothers me? When COVID first showed up, why was it that it took so long for them to finally they had a vaccine? And don't tell me the president at the time. They finally eventually figured out how to get a vaccine that would effectively work. Now there's a new strain, and they're like, take this! How'd you figure this one out so fast? What the hell's going on here? It feels like something's fishy to me. But then again, you know, I don't live by conspiracy theories, but it doesn't smell right, and I don't think The Rock would eat what they're cooking because it doesn't smell right. So it's I'm not on board with it. How's that for Pharaohisms? I think it's a bunch of shit, quite honestly. But
our viewership just dropped. Great job, well done. Thank you so much.
Wait a minute, come back, Sammy Snowflake. Where are you going? Wait a minute.
I'd like to thank the band that sings the theme song for Monte and the Pharaoh, own Jimmy Pharaoh, along with his partner, Mr. Bart Griggs, a part of the band Wisteria Hall. I'm going to ask Joel if he knows, our special guest Joel, if he knows about Wisteria Hall. Wait, hold on. Wisteria Hall sings such great songs as In My Dreams, This Life, Not Far Behind, and Here Comes the Rain. You can find Wisteria Hall's music on Spotify, Apple Music, Reverb Nation, and please go to their YouTube page, the Wisteria Hall YouTube page. Hit the like and subscribe button.
Yeah, we actually.
And if you didn't know it, we're usually on Thursdays, but this is a Saturday show. You are watching Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monte and the Pharaoh. You can catch us on the Monte and the Pharaoh YouTube page, the Monte and Pharaoh Facebook Live page. Hear us on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Anchor, where audio versions are downloaded.
Okay.
I was going to say sold, but whatever.
Yeah, all right.
The Monte and the Pharaoh Twitch TV page. And if you're lucky enough to live in the great state of New York, you can catch us on Channel 115 every Tuesday from 7 to 7:30. And on Saturday for the early riser, 6 a.m. to 6:30. Yeah. And at Channel 20 at 2 a.m. to 2:30. That's some late night.
Yeah, that works.
Where you'll get this ECW legend in the reduced version, Mr. Joel Gertner. From this interview, they kind of reduce it, make it cable ready.
You're back to calling it reduced. You were doing so well. It's condensed. It's abbreviated. It's professionally, fantastically.
It's because after seeing someone as beautiful as Marissa Jade, I feel reduced because I'm fucking worthless. Anyway, we'll be right back with ECW legend Mr. Joel Gertner in a few seconds.
Well, we'll be right back.
You want to star in your own success? Call QuickCast, www.quickcast.com, 866-7-CAST-NOW. That's 866-7-CAST-NOW. QuickCast.
Star in your own success. Elm Logistics, for all your logistic needs. Call 631-299-3595. That's 631-299-3595. Elm Global Logistics. Pride, performance, and partnerships.
Jimmy, I just got the best hookup on tickets.
Fill me in.
I went to www.seatslinks.com and ordered the best tickets with the best prices.
Call 718-676-0504. SeatsLink, the complete ticket experience.
Tell them Charles sent you.
Get serious.
All right, welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast. Monte the Pharaoh, only seen here out of Indie Music TV, out of Ronkonkoma, Long Island. Welcome, ECW legend, pro wrestling legend. Shall I call you Joel or Mr. Gertner?
To be called by you at all is an honor and a privilege. Wow. Hey, it's good to hear that Listeria Falls is still playing, by the way. Congratulate all of them. I go back with them. I was listening since they were Salmonella Sprinkler.
Oh, very good.
Yeah. You know what's interesting? The radio guest segment of my career in the last 25 or 30 years has really upped its game, because now when I do radio, it's on YouTube, and I'm on a couch. I've got my left boobie almost hanging out. I'm like one man breast away from doing net porn. What is this?
You should give a nip slip somewhere along this interview. You should just let it slip out a little bit for the fans out there.
Did you enable monetization? Because if so, I'd be more than happy to.
Oh, we've enabled it. In fact, we've got some fans out there looking to give a few things for a nip slip if you're willing to send it that way.
What about that filmmaker that called about that erotic hardcore porn film he wants to do regarding his chest, Lawnmower Man?
Oh,
I mean, come on. This is gold just waiting to happen.
Speaking of the lawn, so my friends here, my promoter friends, led by Bobby Extreme, they took me out for dinner to a vegan restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
My digestive metabolism right now is kicking like kung fu. So,
Where did you
I
go?
may need to-
I'd like to know what
The
vegan
bathroom's
place.
right
Bobby,
there.
where'd we go? Three brothers.
Three brothers.
Three brothers.
And you felt safe having Mo, Larry, and Curly serve you food?
It tasted like three brothers, two sisters, and a tree. A really, really big tree. Everything was made out of vegetables, except the vegetables were made out of tofu and seitan.
Now, are you a vegan? Is that why you went there?
I'm not one, no.
So
and I've
why would
already
they
used the
bring you-
bathroom in the restaurant, and there's a great chance that I'm going to use the bathroom here.
Well, so the question is why?
When I say here, I mean the couch. Okay. And the inside of my pants.
Oh, man.
And my boxers. Don't worry. Like everything else, it smells like dulce de leche. You'll be fine.
Oh, Matt, we have baby wipes in the studio to wipe down the couch afterwards.
Yeah, it's in the closet.
Excellent. You're
My
always
bodily
prepared.
fluids pass in the third world for ice cream.
Nice.
You'll
Very
be
good.
fine.
There you go.
It's always better to be forewarned than forearmed. Way to go, Matt. Oy.
How are you handling everything in the world today between COVID and the civil unrest that's going on? How does
With an unhealthy level of man-child sarcasm.
Nice.
Yeah, with an absolute lack of taking anything really seriously.
Good.
Is how I'm handling. I think that's really the only way to handle life. I think you have a more blessed, happy, and prolonged, less stressful life if you do govern yourself accordingly in that regard.
So that seems to be working for you. I'm gonna have to give that a shot.
That's what I'm trying.
Nice. I got to stop, kicking the cat when I first get up and breaking windows. He's got the right idea.
So you're saying when President Biden was voted in, you just laughed your way through that inauguration, or?
I didn't really have a dog in the fight. Yeah, so I kind of did. I didn't vote for either one. I'm going to give away. Okay, here. Remind me to give away way too much information.
Please
for a
do.
State employee.
That's what we want.
But
Please
because
do.
I'm employed by the state in two different segments, and I'll let you know what one of those is momentarily. Okay. Let me first get out of the way that I didn't vote for either one. I wouldn't vote for either one. I wouldn't vote against either one. I wouldn't vote for either one. I wouldn't recommend to anybody that they vote for either one. I do remember from when I was 12 or 13 years old that Joe Biden was de facto disqualified as a presidential candidate because he was found to be a plagiarist. So that's just one of however many reasons why I would now.
Wow.
To go back to what I was saying, I am an employee of the Board of Elections every now and again. I find it's fun I'm a performance artist, so I find as a social experiment 3 or 4 days a year when there's something going on at the polls, I work the polls. And that's my civic duty, and that's my contribution. So I let other people do as they will with their vote. I help them as much as I can, but I get it out of the way helping them, and then 16 hours I'm there, and I don't cast a vote once.
What did you see? Did you see any crazy shit going on during the actual voting process, like people arguing in line or anything? I mean, like any of that craziness?
It's remarkable how if I were corrupt and if I were somebody other than me, how I probably could, in theory, vote 3 or 4 times. Because people come to get help from you, and some of these people, they're just happy to be voting, so they can't speak English, they can't read the ballot. Hey, you look honest. Who should I vote for? And so yeah, that's an interesting. But the system's got a ton of checks and balances, and it works as well as it possibly can. It's never going to be 100%. It's never going to be flawless. That's not my way of trying to talk myself out of work in the next election. It's just it's the nature of the beast. It's to think that 150 million votes are going to get cast, and it's going to have a margin of error of 0.000% is it's ridiculous.
So in some degrees, it's always probably been flawed somewhat.
Well, what's not flawed?
Right. Bingo.
Not the vaccine they're giving out.
Oh no, it's perfect. Hurry up, take it. Yes.
Unless it's Delta. If it's Delta, then the current vaccine's flawed.
Yeah, there you go.
But we knew that, right? Because these are variants. So
Let's switch gears. Unfortunately, New Jack has left us, and he was one of my favorite guests on the show. We've had him on several times. Of course, his departure
to me was a shock. I don't know why, but to me I was very, very shocked. Do you have some memories for us?
Yeah. Oh God, New Jack was my food buddy, and we would, when we were on the road, we would, if we weren't eating together, maybe he would go to a certain spot before the show, like for a late lunch, whatever, and he'd bring back food for me. He would tell me about places to try. We got along great. But the memory that stands out is he did an indie show in Brooklyn 2 or 3 years ago, not far from where my grandmother lived. But my grandmother at the time was in a nursing home or in rehab. And I think at this point she was probably in hospice care already. And so New Jack worked the show. I was there. It wasn't too far from where I lived. And I popped in, said hey, and we went out to dinner at a sushi place later that night. And the sushi place is right by my grandmother's house, which she hadn't been in a year or two because she'd been in the hospital, rehab, hospice. So after we ate, I asked Jack, I was like, Jack, if you wouldn't mind, if it's cool, can I take a picture of you outside this sushi place? And the intention was I was going to show it to my grandmother to get a pop out of her, because every other time she's seen an image of New Jack is when it was on TNN and him jumping off the balcony and putting me through a table. So I take the picture, I show it to her, and she smiles and she laughs because it's like worlds colliding. What was this guy that I've seen on national television doing a block from my home where you and I go to eat sushi all the time? So she smiled and she laughed, and she passed away 3 weeks after that. And it was pretty much the last time maybe that she ever, that I ever got, a smile and a laugh out of her. So I've got the picture of New Jack outside the sushi place. I've got it in the camera roll on my phone. And God, man, he was just he was real people, you know what I mean? He was he lived his worldview, and he was who he was, and he was unapologetic. And if you were somebody that he didn't like, then you wouldn't have liked him, because if he didn't like you, he wasn't going to sugarcoat it and put a filter and that kind of thing. But if you were like family to him, if you were somebody who he allowed into his like inner circle, then you couldn't have a more loyal friend in the world.
What would you describe his legacy as? Do you believe that he's in the penthouse of the greatest of the great hardcore wrestlers? Because to me, he's a measuring stick.
Yeah, I think so. I think the number of times he's been emulated by students at wrestling schools who are taking bookings and doing their own first hardcore matches and just up and down the independent circuit, like no matter where you are in the country, no matter where you are really in the world, I think there are so many people trying to be what New Jack was, just kind of have that same flavor, that same kind of spirit or vibe. And he really was one of a kind. He really was. The same way Brody was one of a kind.
Sure.
Is there might be people in the decades to follow that remind you of New Jack, but they're not gonna be exactly who or what he was, because you can't cast a New Jack. You know what I mean?
Thoughts on Nick Gage?
I think his career is exploding, right? I mean, what if Nostradamus would have put in chapter 1147 that Nick Gage would be a Domino's Pizza spokesman, and we'd all have a nice laugh over that. But I mean, in a way, that's kind of what happened on Twitter this week, right? I mean, kudos to him. Also very real, also salt of the earth, also, I don't know him personally. I haven't met him, but but I like what I see. You know what I mean? In the sense that he is true to who he is.
Right.
And I think he's also probably going to spawn a lot of imitators, especially now that he's proven that he's gone from what people thought was just kind of niche, and he's now taken it to the mainstream because of how not mainstream he is.
Right.
You know, he's almost like, you know, you'd never expect him to succeed.
Right.
So it's almost like, you know, in a certain way, he's succeeding in spite of what or who he is. And I think there's a certain glory in that you can't get by just succeeding if you were meant to be and lined up to be a success.
It's very organic, this
Yeah.
whole deal. And
Yeah.
that's what's selling it.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Very interesting. How about, you know what? You mentioned it before, so I want to ask you. The infamous leap off the balcony. There you are. He's coming down. Are you scared shitless at that moment, or are you trusting because it's New Jack and you feel safe? I mean, what goes through the victim's mind? Sure, the viewer at home gets to enjoy the whole spectacle, but what about the poor guy on the table? I mean, what's going through your mind during that?
All of it. It all goes through your mind, and because it's all going through your mind and it's so quick, it's perfect because none of it's going through your mind. Because if
Right.
it's all going through your mind at once, then you don't really get to dwell on any of it. But so on the one side, it's I'm not a physical guy, I'm not an athlete, I'm not trained as a wrestler. I'm gonna f this up, fudge this up. I caught myself right. I was gonna say fudge this up.
You can say fuck this up. It's
Oh yeah, so I'm gonna fuck this up, or like,
there you go.
you know what I mean? There's all that, like, you know, and then on the other hand, like you said, it's, well, this is New Jack.
Right.
I've seen other people take this spot and be fine. It's gonna be quick. This too shall pass. There's nothing to worry about. And you've got kind of, you know, 5 or 10 Debbie Downerisms running through your head, and you've
Right.
got 5 or 10 motivationalisms. But you know, you're only on the table for about 10, 15. You know what I mean? So
right. And
So
oddly
it
enough,
all
New
does and
Jack
none of it
is-
does.
No, oddly enough, New Jack is the one who usually would get more hurt than the guy on the table.
I mean,
My God.
it was getting to be like 20, 30 feet, like jumping out of
Right.
like the third floor of an apartment. Once
Right.
you're at 30 feet, I mean, think about it. It's like jumping out the third floor of an apartment building.
Did you fear for his safety? Did you ever talk to him and say, Jack, these leaps are getting higher and higher? I mean, like, you know, you might want to. Did you ever give him that sort of advice, or who would dare to give him that sort of advice?
Yeah.
Perhaps. Okay.
No, not me. No.
Okay. You were known as the quintessential stud muffin, which I absolutely love. Did you come up with that yourself, or
Not.
no? Is that Paul?
I did not. I came up with 99% of the limericks of the
Okay.
Gertnerisms.
Okay.
But I think was Paul's.
Love it. It's great.
It's classic.
Great.
It's throwback. It's everything, and it's also he's a big like cartoon guy, like Bugs Bunny, Warner Brothers, and it just harkens to like that type of heelishes, you know. So you know, goes back to the beginning of television, the beginning of time.
Sure.
So that was Paul's, and quintessential stud muffin was Paul's,
Right.
as an homage to Austin Idol, who he managed early on in his career in the
wow.
late 80s in the territories,
Okay.
who was the universal heartthrob.
Sure. That guy was. I sometimes wonder why he didn't get bigger. That guy was pretty fantastic.
Yeah, he should have had a run in the 80s.
Joel, how does it start for you with pro wrestling? I mean, how do you get into it in the first place?
I was a big fan, and I started getting newsletters,
Okay.
listening to radio shows like this one.
Newsletters from Paul by any chance? Because Paul had a newsletter, didn't he, back in the early days?
He was a fan club president, I think. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
I was getting the Observer, Dave Meltzer.
Okay. Boo.
I was getting.
Wait. Boo. Okay. Next.
And then there was a woman named Georgianne Macropolis who was doing the Wrestling Chatterbox. She was former Bruno Sammartino fan club president. And yeah, gosh, I was listening to radio shows, getting newsletters, and there was a school on the Lower East Side in the city, and I was around 16. And I said, well, you know, I think I can do this, so let's see if there's anything there that I can do that they need, you know. Took 1 or 2 wrestling classes, knowing that that's not where my bread was buttered, knowing that, 'cause again, I'm not an athlete. I knew that that wasn't going to be my contribution to the industry. But it was nice to learn how to take a back bump. and it was nice to learn how to run the ropes. Because you get respect for the business. I mean, and I already had respect for the business, but running the ropes is a chore. You know what I mean? It's not easy. It stings, it leaves marks, it leaves welts, and until your body is conditioned for it, even running the ropes is painful. So that taking back bumps allowed me to where now I can do color commentary. And I can say, hey, you know, you who just saw Sabu at age 50 do what he did, thinking at 25 years old that you could probably do that if you just know. And I go into how, you know, running the ropes will take its toll on you.
Sure.
You know, taking back bumps over and over again is, you know, most doctors would consider that to be a similar level of trauma to a car accident. You know what I mean? Like wrestling a 15-minute wrestling match is the equivalent of being in a minor car accident. So, yeah, I mean, you know, I'm glad I took those classes. But again, with no pressure, because I knew that my goal wasn't to be the next, you know, whoever wrestles that I admire, any of the heels or freakazoid wrestlers that I loved. You know, my goal wasn't to be Jake the Snake Roberts. My goal wasn't to be the Missing Link. My goal, I loved those guys, but my goal was to be, you know, Jimmy Hart,
Bobby
Lou
the
Albano,
Brain.
Freddie Blassie,
Right.
Paul Heyman, Jim Cornette. My goal, and I did a lot of ring announcing, and I still do. My goal was to be Howard Finkel. My goal was to be people like that. But I knew I wasn't going to be a full-time wrestler, so it was fun and meaningful and productive.
So what did your parents say about that, though, that you wanted to get a professional wrestler? Because you have a degree from Cornell, am I right?
I dropped out of Cornell to pursue ECW. Yeah. So I wound up getting a degree at Brooklyn College down the line.
Okay.
But yeah, they just weren't into it.
How did you wind up in ECW? How's that happen?
So I did about 4 years on the Indies, a couple of years while I was in high school, a couple of years while I was in college.
Okay.
So 16 to 20. And then around my 20th birthday, like maybe a month before it, I was in Philly. I was at an ECW show. I was hanging out with my crew of people, and we were at the Travelodge, the celebrated Cylinder of Sin, the Travelodge, and we were hanging out in the lobby at the bar, and I saw Paul Heyman came into the hotel, and he had pushed the button, and he was waiting for the elevator, and I gave an elevator. I didn't know at the time what an elevator pitch was,
Okay.
but I gave him one.
You did.
You know, I said to myself, look, the answer's no now. You know what I mean? Like, just open your mouth and introduce yourself to this guy and ask for what you want, because he's going to say no anyway. So at least know that he says no. Don't not do it and then find yourself in a position where you're like, I wonder, even though it's a 1 in 1,000 chance,
Right.
what if I would have asked him?
Right.
I'd rather regret asking him, which wouldn't have been a regret anyway, because like I said, the answer's no until you've asked. So I went up to him. I said, I've been a big fan I've been an admirer of your work. Have followed your career. I told him about a mutual friend, Stephen DeAngelis, an ECW ring announcer. I had a mutual friend, so I don't know if that helped or didn't matter. But I said, I'm up at Cornell University, and you guys are coming to Middletown. And I do ring announcing, you know, managing, that kind of thing. I know that your ring announcing crew is based in Philadelphia. So I don't know if they're going to be in Middletown or if you'd be in need of somebody anyway. And if you were, then I just wanted to volunteer my services and just audition and show you what it is that I could do. Whatever I said just happened to be, you know, it was like throwing refrigerator word magnets at the refrigerator door, but in the right order, I guess. Because it must have been, he must have seen something in what I said, nervous as I was, that he just kind of, I don't know if he thought he was looking in a mirror. That's probably me putting myself over too much. Or whether he thought he was looking at somebody that had 7 heads. But he just kind of stared at me for a moment, and he was like, you want it? Well, I've come this far, right? So I'm like, yeah. He's like, you got it. Be there by 5.
Wow.
And Be There by 5 turned into 5.25 years.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
With that, we'll be right back after this commercial break with ECW legend Joel Gertner.
EC Dub. And APB, American Protection Bureau, voted #1 best on Long Island for all your security needs. Call 631-390-9050. That's 631-390-9050. APB. Jeff Quest, graphics design, custom vinyl lettering, and all your art and video needs. 516-317-8204. That's for Jeff Quest, graphic design. The Monte and the Pharaoh Show is brought to you by...
Because wine is your second favorite 4-letter word. California wine, New York attitude. Good fucking wine.
Yeah.
All right, welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monte and the Pharaoh, only seen here out of Indie Music TV, usually on Thursdays from 9 to 10 p.m., but this is a special Saturday show.
Special.
With ECW legend, Mr. Joel Gertner.
Joel, let's break into one of my, well, they probably really are my favorite tag team outside of Demolition, the amazing Dudley Boys. Tell me about your experiences working with the great Dudley Boys.
Yeah, it was just an amazing time. Because all of us in ECW, it was like our first big break, and we all hadn't been anywhere else yet. Mm-hmm. And so it was just special, the family vibe. It was just special. And with the Dudleys, with however many there were and for how long it lasted, it was almost the closest thing we had to the NWO. It was a tag team that was kind of like a faction or a stable. Mm-hmm. And it was, whether we had the belts or whether we were chasing for the belts, it's something that lasted a good 2 years, probably closer to 3 years. Mm-hmm. And it was a blast to work with them, and they were both so devoted and disciplined and dedicated and all of us were just looking to advance our careers and also do what we could for the advancement of ECW itself. And just a really, really special time. And the dynamic was interesting working with the Dudleys. Because it's kind of a good cop, bad cop kind of thing, with Devon kind of being the good cop, and as you can, and
so let me ask you, what kind of relationship did you have with Bubba Ray Dudley, right, or Bully Ray, whatever, right? So we're kind of in competition with them, right? We're all looking for that same audience. And
he's got a show? Oh yeah,
yeah, he does.
Yeah, go on.
But
go on.
As an outsider looking in, this guy always seems like he thinks he knows everything, and he's always trying to put himself over. Like, was he like that with you? I mean, what was that all about?
There was one. No, he wasn't, because, and I wasn't. I was. Look, we were all young. We were all like in our 20s.
Oh yeah.
But I was like early to mid. Like I was. We were all babies, and I was like the little runt baby.
Of the
like
group?
Were you? Yeah.
Wow,
Like
okay.
Roadkill eventually would be younger than me when he came in.
Okay.
And Juventud Guerrera, who was in for a few months with the Lucha guys, I want to say he is a number of weeks younger than me, like a couple of months younger than me. But by and large, I started 3 days after my 20th birthday, so I was age 20 to age 25. But Bubba, so when you ask, was Bubba that way with me? No, because even though it was not in my character to speak up necessarily, there was one instance where I kind of nipped in the bud where, if I would have heard it from Paul, it would have been gospel because he pays the bills and he gave me my shot.
Right.
But I didn't hear it from Paul. I heard it from Bubba, who suggested to me that maybe I should, and if it's done the right way, I'm all for getting heat. Like I knew that so there was one time where Paul pulled me aside. I think he saw that I was acting a little bit too tweenerish. Maybe I slapped somebody's hand. I did something that was a little, this pre-TNN. So I was with the Dudleys in the meat and the heart of the heat of trying to incite riots and all that and get the Dudleys the Dudley heat. And Paul, when I came to the back after working, Paul said, "You're worth $1 million to me as a heel. Right now, you are worth nothing to me as a babyface." And I understood what that meant, and it was wise, and it meant a lot, and I put it in my back pocket, and it meant something, and I learned from it. Bubba one night said, maybe you should, because people were starting to get off on the Gertnerisms, and the Gertnerisms were starting to get longer, right? Another line here, another verse
They
there.
were great, though.
And
I loved
Bubba
them.
was like, how about maybe you should go out there and be like, well, it is I, Joel, you suck, Gertner. Or Joel, I rock. Like, it was, like, in other words, sabotage my own moneymaker.
Right.
And intentionally, you know what I mean? Like,
So he sees you taking off and he wants the New York gimmick. That's what it feels like. I'm not asking you to say that, but that's how it feels to me. What the hell's that?
well,
Seems in line.
you know,
Well, Bubba.
you know what? Done similarly but different,
Okay.
it could have worked.
Okay.
But the way he recommended it, I felt did not work.
Right.
So I kind of, to show him how I thought it wasn't appropriate, I said, Bubba, wouldn't this, so you're a wrestler, right? I'm the talker, but you're the wrestler.
Right.
Wouldn't this be akin to, you go out, after I've done that, now you're out there 3 minutes in, and you're working the match, and because all these people paid their ticket money to see you wrestle as well as you can and try to win the match, you throw a drop kick to somebody's shins.
Sure.
Right.
And that kind of nipped it in the bud.
Right.
And from that point forward, Bubba wasn't quite that way.
So he was cool with that analogy coming from you.
He
Very
understood it,
interesting.
I think.
All
Yeah.
right. All
Honestly,
right, that's cool.
honestly, personally, again, not a big fan of him to begin
Right.
with. So anyway,
Right.
John Lewis is asking out there, did you ever work with Tommy Rich?
Ooh.
Directly, yeah, I think
Italian,
we
you
did
know.
some we did some like 4-way tags. I think that I
Okay,
think
okay.
we were in and the FBI were in. But you know, as work with them, you know, on the same night in the same locker room, absolutely, for quite a while. Work with them actually out there at ringside, not as much as I would have liked, because he's just a captain of industry. I mean, he's just a legend, and he's been there as a babyface, and been there as a heel, and been there as the local guy, and been there as the fish out of water, and been there as the champion, and been there on the undercard, and he's done it all.
Yeah.
So no, I wish I would have got. I mean, I'm sure the Dudleys and the FBI, I think, were in some 4-way tags, but with the exception of that, I wish I would have gotten to work with them some more.
Your memories of Big Dick Dudley. I gotta go there. I mean, tell me about Big Dick Dudley. What you remember
Oh
about
man,
him?
he's from out here.
Yeah.
He's from the island. He's a legend.
Great name, by the way. Is that Paul? Big Dick. Oh, Dudley. By the way,
There you go.
Gotta throw that in. You know, is that Paul also coming up with that, or?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Paul is a
It could have.
sick
I mean, it
fuck.
could have
I
been
love
Scotty. It could have been Tommy. It could have been a number of people.
Yeah.
But
And
it
Sign
could
Guy
have been
too.
Paul.
Let's not forget Sign Guy.
Yeah.
But oh my God! But tell me about Big Dick Dudley.
He was awesome. He was just if you you know, again, similar to New Jack but different. If
wow.
you knew him
Okay.
and he liked you, then he was a teddy bear. You know, but
A mountain of a man.
not somebody you wanted to be on the bad side of.
Heck no.
But just a great guy, man, and used to like. There was a time or two where somebody would ask me what my verbiage was going to be that night, like what the limerick was going to be, and it would be with him near enough by, and he'd be like, I got to go because I don't want to hear it until I'm out there.
Nice.
And then there were times, like, you could watch on Peacock now, there are a couple times where it gets caught by that angle of the camera.
Yeah.
That I'll do the Gertnerism, and you can see that he's got his face covered with his hair, and he's just laughing, trying not to break character. And just the fact that I could make him laugh and bring a smile to his face, and I just always... he was so big, and if you hadn't met him yet, or if you misjudged him, or if you didn't take a moment to want to get to know him, he was so intimidating. But because I had met him and seen the real him and knew better than to need to be intimidated by him, I treated him like a real person, you know? I treated him like he was 5'7". You know what I mean? I treated him like I treat everybody else. And I think he had an appreciation for that. I think he wanted more people to just kind of let him into their world and be real with him and not kind of treat him like this big monstrous hulking guy or whatever they thought he was.
Right.
And yeah.
Right. Joel, I mentioned to you in the back before we got on the air that ECW was my favorite company. I mean, of course, you know, we had the Monday Night Wars and that stuff was fantastic, but there I was, midnights, Madison Square Garden Network. I was like, man, here comes my show. I absolutely loved ECW. What was it like being part of that whole group? Did you know at the time what we're doing is going to be talked about for decades and decades? Was it like that? Or, I mean, what was it like to be part of such a special, amazing group and that no one else was like?
Yeah.
So
Thank you for that. We, I think we all knew that we were on a rocket ship. I think we all knew that. I think, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we all knew that we were chosen, and for those of us who had to make a choice to be put, like I'd left school, a lot of other people made, you know, their own personal decisions that they needed to make to be able to be on the road 2, 3, 4 days a week in a row, and I think we knew, but it because we were always the number 3 horse in a 3-horse race. We never had that view that the horse in front has. Probably, thank goodness. It probably would have killed us if we would have not been the underdogs. It probably would have sapped us of that kind of organic...
Might have lost the hunger.
It's almost,
that
it's
hunger
almost
effect.
happening.
The
What's
fire.
happening with AEW now? It's that same kind of feeling. Real quick before we go to break, John Lewis again on Tommy Rich. Do you think Tommy Rich belongs in Hall of Fame?
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's simple enough. All right. With that, we'll be right back with ECW legend Joe Gertner.
See you in a sec.
Hi, it's John from Under the Table Hot Sauce. I'm here with my friend, the star of the show, Jimmy Pharaoh.
Yeah, what's up, JB?
Nah, nothing.
It's been a hot summer, and for all your barbecue needs, you can go to underthetablehotsauce.com. 13 unique flavors to choose from, created and bottled in a Long Island kitchen. Underthetablehotsauce.com. Let's go chow, JB.
Let's do it.
All the flavor, twice the burn. M&J Video Games and Collectibles. Sport and non-sport cards, wrestling items, autographed items. We buy, sell, and trade. M&J Video Games and Collectibles, located at 1049 Queen Street, Southington, Connecticut. Call us at 1-860-479-9223 or 860-93-GAMES. M&J Video Games and Collectibles.
Do you treat your dog as part of the family? Well, so do we. So why not celebrate your pup's birthday with the ultimate party box? Check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Party Pup Info, and let us make your pup's party or any celebration perfection.
All right, welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monte and Pharaoh, only seen here out of Indie Music TV, where we have ECW legend Joel Gertner. The fans are loving this, Joel, so
Awesome.
real quick, Joel, memories of New England. This is from Phil Descara. Worcester, Waltham, Webster, Salem, New Hampshire, Hampton, New Hampshire's ECW.
Yeah, New England was great. Oh, man. So many memories. You know, the Revere, Wonderland dog track in Revere, you know, just getting changed in the locker room as, like, the dog races are going on outside. So you're hearing all of the atmosphere of, like, you know, the mechanical rabbits going around, and it's like, there goes Swifty.
Swifty! I got $5 on Stinky. Come on, Stinky, pass Swifty. Amazing. Did you have a personal favorite venue from back in the ECW days that you just couldn't wait to get to that particular building? I mean, ECW Arena obviously is, you know, the Yankee Stadium equivalent for ECW, but, you know, any particular venue you look forward to going to? Why do I always think Rochester, New York when I think about ECW? I don't know. I think of these, Poughkeepsie. I think of these
Poughkeepsie
towns.
is one of them.
Poughkeepsie.
Is going to be part of my answer.
There you go.
I mean, I cut my teeth on being a fan of WWF in the 80s, and I'm from Brooklyn, New York. So, you know, I saw Monday Night Raw a good time or two at the Manhattan Center. So anytime that we ran the Hammerstein Ballroom, that's one. Poughkeepsie is one, because I've seen Raw there to sort of watch television there, you know, to watch a TV taping in the crowd, and then to be part of an ECW TV taping.
Damn.
Poughkeepsie, man, is a building where I remember, I think the first time we ran it, we're driving like up the ramp or whatever it is to go into the parking lot. And as you do that, we pass like the front of the building, like the marquee. And you look off to your left and you see what's on the marquee, and it says, coming next week, Kenny Rogers. And you're like, you know, but listen, I mean,
awesome.
in the 90s,
That's
you see that you're playing the same building as Kenny Rogers, you know what I mean?
I'm pumped.
They're talking about Kenny Rogers Roasters on Seinfeld, you know what I
Right.
mean? So it's like, it was just huge. Poughkeepsie is a building where Bob Backlund came by one time. He was in with us for a real short kind of thing that never really came to fruition, fully developed. But he did a couple of dates with us, and one of them was Poughkeepsie. And I'm downstairs. I think it's the same night where we just found out that one of the little rooms in the downstairs in the locker room is out of commission because Marilyn Manson was there the previous week and trashed it to the tune of $10,000. So he trashes the room. So, and then here's me and Bob Backlund, and Bob Backlund's like, "What do you think about the?" I hardly know him, right? We just met.
Oh, you're marking out, by the way? That it's
Huge.
Bob Backlund? There we go.
I'm trying to think of Bob
He's
Backlund
marking
in
out.
ECW too. By the way,
I know.
It's
I'm,
like
I'm,
what?
I'm trying to picture that, too. How did they talk him into this? But okay.
That's right. We're all in the same company. We had him in studio. We were like, it was like the president was sitting in
I'm
studio.
telling you.
He's a force of nature, man.
Yes.
That man did not disappoint either. He is Bob Backlund.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my
all
God.
day, every day. Yeah.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so he asked you if you were impressed with the building.
He asked me, he's like, "What do you think about the building?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's great." He's like, "Think about it for TV." I'm like, "Yeah, it's unbelievable. I remember I used to come to TV tapings here. The building holds 2,200, but when you put 4 cameras and a crane for WWE TV, it looks like it holds 10,000. I'm talking to him. He's like, "I agree. He's like, "Wouldn't you say that this is the quintessential building to tape television in?" And I didn't know whether to shit, piss, or cum. I didn't know, like, you know what I mean? Because he's saying quintessential to me in the locker room of this building, and I'm like, does he know what my nickname is? Does he not know? If he knows, is this like I was like a deer in headlights. I was like, I didn't know what to say. Yeah,
That's amazing.
Yeah.
What was it? Well, we're talking about your admiration for Backlund. Who was your biggest influence growing up as a wrestling fan? Who was your hero in wrestling?
My favorite was Jake.
Jake the Snake.
You know, and again, I knew I wasn't going to be an in-ring wrestler, so again, I borrowed, I borrowed more from the managers and the talkers and that kind of thing. But when it came to the heelishness of it all and the psychology of it all, I tried to borrow whatever I could from Jake because I admired him so much as a performer. Yeah.
Do you feel Paul left you guys in a lurch, a lot of you guys, when he went to the WWF or WWE? Knowing your talents and knowing you, and obviously the Dudley boys did well over there. I mean,
And you helped him get
yeah,
where
to
he
get where
got.
you think that he just left you guys and just left you stranded after all you did for him
Boy, that's-
personally.
That's tough.
I don't think that because I mean, I know as much as the next person. You know what I mean? When it comes to late 2000, early 2001, how exactly really did things play out? Why exactly really did they play out that way? Who personally made certain decisions that they needed to make, could have not made? Like, you know, it's a butterfly. You'll drive yourself crazy.
Sure. Right.
And if you give me 10,000 points of data, I'll analyze them all and I'll go into analysis and paralysis. You know what I mean? Sure. Like, I'll have something to do but if I don't have any data, then for me to think that Paul left me and the crew in a lurch without knowing anything, it would necessitate me having a poor personal, for me to think badly of him. And as the person who always gave me creative control, creative license, creative leeway, gave me my break, gave me a nickname that was an homage to Austin Idol, who he worked with,
Right.
gave me a co-host and color commentator spot on the TNN show, which is what he had in WCW.
Right.
So he couldn't do it in his own company,
Right.
and I'm the one he chose. For him to put me opposite Rick Rude, point counterpoint, and put me on Rude's level, when that's another person that was very influential along his journey, I can't, I would never be the one to say that he even left me or the company in the lurch, because without any conclusive proof that that's the case, I would have to, again, think poorly of him personally.
So do you look at
and
it,
I don't.
Do you just look at it this way, that this guy gave me the opportunity, he gave me a great 5 years, and I should be satisfied with that?
From him.
Yeah.
I should be from him. I mean, the moment he let me in the door, look, you don't choose pro wrestling. Pro wrestling chooses you.
Sure.
So the moment I was allowed to be part of the family, he owed me nothing. He didn't owe me that.
Right.
But once he gave me my big break, there's nothing more in life that I could ever ask him.
Did the WWE ever come to you when this whole transition was happening and said, "Hey, come on, let's have a couple of tryouts, see what's going on here"?
Before I signed a contract in ECW in '99, and before the TNN show happened in '99, so maybe closer to '98-ish, late '98. The chronology gets, I'm not sure, but I spoke to Terry Taylor, and he threw a couple of numbers at me, and they were substantially high. I wasn't looking to leave.
Right.
I wanted to, at some point, work for WWF.
Sure.
But at that time, 98-ish, I wasn't necessarily, to get there, looking to leave ECW. But I wind up on the phone with Terry Taylor, and he throws a couple of numbers at me, and he mentions that they might like to look at me to work with the Public Enemy. And the Public Enemy didn't wind up lasting very long.
No.
On their
No,
run
Paul,
there.
They didn't play ball too well, from what the fans have, been told, when they wound up in those other places like WCW, and they were much better fit, it seemed, in ECW.
Yeah.
But,
So then that begs the question, well, if I would have left ECW, not done the TNN show, gone to the WWF, not been with the Dudleys, been instead with Public Enemy,
it's interesting.
and they would have not been there long, would I have eventually, months later, been put with the Dudleys when the Dudleys were brought in?
Wow.
would I have been let go because the Public Enemy were let go?
Right.
You could have been. You could have been like a new Captain Lou too. In some cases, again,
Does this drive you
History's
crazy?
mystery. No,
Does
well,
this drive
history
you can't.
mystery. Yeah.
Yeah, history's mysteries. You know what I mean? Butterfly effect. You can't. You know, you can. You got to have thick enough skin not to let it drive you crazy, or
Right.
it will legitimate. You know.
Right. Yeah.
Can you give some of the fans out there some of your famous lines?
Oh,
Can you-
please.
Can you,
Please,
do
go to
you,
town,
do you remember
man.
a few of them? Can you do
Does
a
he
few?
remember a few of them?
I remember.
I listen. I'm not going to put you under pressure like Lanny Poffo. Lanny Poffo remembers shit from 40 years, and he could do the same poems like.
Can I get one? I got to get one thing in before he goes to. And I want him
All
to
right.
do these Gertner. Please do them. Where did this come from?
Little happy dance. This
Yeah,
thing?
where does this come from? I love that. Where did that come from? Just practicing in the mirror. Hey, this looks appropriate.
I thought it was fun. I thought it was cartoonish.
Yeah.
Cartoonish, man. Vaudeville-ish.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Silent movie, like just
loved it.
Paul gave me well, and I guess subconsciously one day I just gave back this because that's what I had, and it stuck.
Fantastic.
I guess.
So hit us with the Gertnerisms. What do you got for us?
Gertnerisms like, well, it is I, the lyrical miracle, the sexual, intellectual, the cunning linguist, and the quintessential stud muffin, Joel. The girls, I leave them screaming. Sometimes they think they're dreaming, 'cause I'm a pussy-licking demon with vanilla flavor beaming. Gertner.
Beautiful. How often did that get you laid?
What?
When you used to say those lines, the ring rat's hanging out, waiting for after the show. How often did that get you laid? You're married now, pre-marriage.
A gentleman doesn't kiss and tell, but because we're talking about getting laid and not kissing, quite often it was quite successful. Actually, it was
Really?
Oh man, rate of return.
Man,
Wow.
you're a lucky man just for that.
I pride myself on not just the number of teenage and pre-teen minds that I morphed in the 90s and melted and destroyed, but also the number of people who come up to me and they're like, I used to use your lines in the bar and try to get dates.
Was it successful for them?
And I ask them, and I'm always curious. Right?
Yeah,
And
sure,
I take a step back, and I look at them, and I process it, and I'm like, how'd that go for you? And just like life, you get, some people are like, yeah, 10 out of 10. And some people are like, yeah, it's probably better left to you.
All right, so this has been a great interview. We're almost out of time. We're going to hit you with the Pharaoh's final question.
All right. Joel, give me... I got to do it because he's here. Give me your Mount Rushmore of ECW's 4 faces that best represented the company that gave so many people so many great memories. Give me 4 faces.
4's not enough.
Obviously not, but we got to go with the mountain.
Paul.
Paul. This is rough. This is rough for him. You can see it. It's the pelvis that killed Elvis. Come on.
I'm going to leave so many people out,
Okay.
but Paul, Tommy,
Dreamer. Okay.
Terry Funk.
Terry Funk. Very nice. 1 to go. You got your Sandmans, you got your Sabus, you got your Rob Van Dams. The Dudleys are already mad. They're not taking you for vegan. But, so your ass doesn't run faster than your feet again. But 1 to go. 1 to go. It's
Tough. It's tough. Rob Van Dam, maybe, but
okay.
I just, and then you start to realize, right, how deep then you start like Sandman's not on it then, and like New Jack and Sabu,
Do I
and
hear
you start
Raven?
to realize,
Do I hear
and a
Raven?
Raven, and
Do I
you
hear
could
Raven?
make a second and third Mount Rushmore out of the people that could go on the first.
The zombie.
How did I know?
How did you forget the zombie? We want to thank you for joining us on Long
Thank
Island's
you,
number
man.
one pro wrestling
Thank both
broadcast.
of you.
What a
I
great
appreciate it.
Thank you so much. What a great interview. Join us next Thursday. That's April 5th, where we have a tribute to New Jack with Mustafa and Super Crazy in
and Super
studio.
Crazy, yes.
And then on August 12th, we've got the first lady of professional wrestling, Missy Hyatt, in studio. And then on August 14th, the return of Mr. USA Tony Atlas.
Fantastic.
As he wants to talk about everything to do with Boston.
And whaling.
Boston Whalers.
Don't forget whaling.
You know, if you come from Connecticut, remember the Connecticut Whalers?
The Hartford Whalers, yeah. Yeah, they were played in Connecticut. Sure, I love that team. Why did they go away?
You
Oh,
like
that's right,
that
they
whale?
stunk.
You like that big fat whale on the shirt?
What the whale, yeah.
And on September 17th, we've got Abdullah Butcher in studio, and then a special members-only exclusive 90 minutes with Rob Van Dam.
Nice.
All right, this has been Long Island's number one pro wrestler broadcast, Monte and Pharaoh. Once again, we want to thank this ECW legend, Joel Gertner. This is Mike Monte.
This is the Pharaoh, and until next week, later.